I'm delighted to be back in the United States, my hunting ground of 35 years, the country where I had my innings in the social and economic struggle, and where I decided to devote myself to the presentation of anarchism, a social philosophy which aims at the emancipation, economic, social, political, and spiritual of the human race.
Protests throughout the Middle East and beyond are continuing. Dozens of deaths, including that of the U.S. ambassador to Libya, have already been linked to protests and violence that swept through Muslim countries around the world as a result of an Islamophobic film. A French cartoon depicting Muhammad in pornographic poses has only added new fodder to the global outcry. France, of course, has ordered the closure of embassies and other official sites in 20 countries after a French magazine published offensive caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. The latest issue of the satirical Charlie Hebdo features a depiction of Muhammad in pornographic poses. The French tout their support of the freedom of speech by banning protests against the cartoon. Something I want to touch on is the role of Islamophobia in this. Of course, Islamophobic Westerners instigated this violence. Many of the drawings of Muhammad or Muslims are eerily like the anti-Semitic propaganda used by the Nazis in issues of the old pro-Nazi paper Der Stürmer. A lot of the Arab Muslim caricatures are updates of Jewish caricatures. A lot of the racist tropes and conspiracy theories aimed at Muslims and Arabs are directly plagiarized from Der Stürmer. The right tries to claim the left goes easy on radical Islam, but that is a straw man. Another straw man is this all about free speech and that Muslims don't understand it and we shouldn't violate our values by censoring. Glenn Greenwald wrote pointing at the of free speech by both the right and the left in this case. He also points out how freedom of speech is not extended to Muslims by our government. Some try to claim criticisms of Islam are being silenced by political correctness and self-censorship. Bashing Islam in the West has a different problem in that Muslims are the victims of our empire and its policies of murder and repression, and the war on terror is the new Red Scare, and that attacking Islam piles on with the forces of our state in a way it would have been wrong to attack Judaism at the time of the Nazis, in which you would be adding to the atmosphere of nascent genocide. Attacking Islam feeds the war on terror propaganda and adds to the extermination and oppression of Muslims. Of course, we should criticize all religions for hate and authoritarianism, but there are human beings that hold religion in their hearts, and attacking their religion is attacking their basic humanity. I've learned that about all religious people, and don't attack their sacred cows just to piss off the fundamentalists. It insults the normal people who happen to be religious. Drawing pictures of Muhammad to piss off Muslim extremists is both immoral and psychopathic, because it is instigating violence that we know will get people killed. The publisher and the artist of this French paper that set out to piss off Muslims with this cartoons has a psychopathic indifference for their consequences of their actions. We have to check our privilege as citizens of the empire, wiping out the brown people, and how our actions contribute to that. That doesn't change what's wrong with any of the religions we choose to criticize, and of course we should be calling that out, but not in a way that contributes to Islamophobia or anti-Semitism. Just like we can criticize Israel without contributing to anti-Semitism, we should just be mindful that our criticisms are not added to the cacophony of anti-Islamic hate when you don't mean it to. We have to be very aware of the consequences that what we say or do might have for others, and recognize that sometimes even valid criticisms will actually harm the victims of the things we are criticizing. We should also criticize religions respecting the inherent human dignity of religious people. So for me, that means criticizing the patriarchy, sexism, homophobia, and authoritarianism in aspects of Islam and other religions in a way that doesn't insult an individual person's dignity. For me, drawing lewd pics of Muhammad doesn't get them to listen to my correct criticism, but attacks something important to another person, and in light of the violence that can be started in reaction by fundamentalists and terrorists, it is irresponsible to taunt Muslims with my iconoclasm. As for helping Muslims fighting the fundamentalism in their own countries, it means letting those who are fighting those things within the community speak for themselves. It also means that I focus almost exclusively on the society and the culture I have some hope of doing something about, and for which I bear the most responsibility. Nothing helps reactionaries in any society like being able to point to a genuine and vicious external enemy, which they have in all of us, in our empire. Reformists and radicals would have the space to deal with the misogynists and homophobes in their culture if our nation wasn't meddling in their society and making those fundamentalist forces strong or putting them in power in the first place. We should be criticizing where we have effect over it and where we are affected by it. It's real easy to criticize and attack the crimes of others rather than look at our own failings. In that respect, it is actually more vital we criticize fundamentalist Christianity, since those Christians and their institutions have effect over us here and can actually take over our government. Muslims aren't going to take over our government and institutionalize Sharia if we don't criticize Islam.
9 to 5 in a job.